Hello there and welcome into a brand new installment of the Career Competitor Podcast with me, Steve Mellor. And as always, we are the show that seeks to light that competitive fire within you in order to jumpstart or optimize your career. And today I have the fortune of welcoming in one of my partners, CG Sports clients, in that of James Green, a World Championship medalist in the sport of wrestling. And what's so great about this is on this day that I'm releasing the episode, James is down in Texas actually trying to qualify for this coming summer's Olympic Games. So I couldn't have found a better day to actually release this episode despite recording the interview almost a month or so ago. Now, one of my favorite things about what we're about to play for you guys is that everything about our show is built upon this premise of insisting that as athletes, we have the ability to incorporate an athlete mindset into just about anything and everything that we do. And it's really cool to find out that the sport of wrestling can sometimes provide a highlight, a piece of insight, if you will, into who a person is behind the wrestler. And that's really cool to me. And I'm excited just to allow James to walk us through some of this ideology and also just bring to the surface a few cool things along the way in terms of his story. So a really fun interview with James. I'm excited to be bringing this to you guys, and I hope you all enjoy. Hey guys, before we jump into this particular episode, I encourage you to go to careercompetitor.com where you can conveniently find all of my episodes provided there. You can also connect with me through the website as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this particular episode and just hear from you in general. Maybe you or someone you know would be a great candidate to come on the show as well. In the meantime, whatever podcasting platform you're listening to is on, make sure you're subscribed to the show, following us, and of course, leaving us a rating as well. This is paramount, especially if you are listening to us on Apple Podcasts. Take the time just to click the 5th star. I would love a 5-star rating if you don't mind. And it really helps us continue to expand the show. So please take the time to do that. And of course, give us a follow on Instagram, career_competitor. All right, I am delighted to be bringing on James Green to the Career Competitor Podcast this evening. James, you're over there in Virginia at the moment. How are things going?
It's been really good. Like I was saying that me and my family just moved here from Nebraska last August. We have a little daughter now. She's approaching 2.
Awesome.
And I was in Nebraska since 2011. And obviously, me and my wife are both from the East Coast. So we're high school sweethearts. And we wanted to get back closer to family and a little closer to family and friends. Originally being from New Jersey and she's being from New York, we just kind of, tried to compromise and see what could work for both of us.
That's it. The compromise of New Jersey and New York equals Virginia. I love it.
The grandparents are in retirement, so we're kind of like right in the middle now. We got some people in New York, New Jersey, Florida. So it's pretty good since we've been here.
That's awesome. That's fantastic to hear. And over where you are at the moment, you're based with the U.S. national team in wrestling, and you are the first of our kind on the Career Competitor Podcast. We've yet to have a wrestler on the show. I'm trying to just check off every single Olympic sport over time, and here we are around sort of 85th episode, and we finally got onto wrestling, and we were just kind of chatting before we started here. And I'm such an advocate for all Olympic sports as someone who's involved in one myself. And just tell everybody your background in the sport, how you got into it, and just really what brought you up to the present.
Man, so I guess just like any other kid out there, you're growing up in my town, Willingboro, New Jersey. We have the little league sports, football, basketball, track, all these sports coming around, and like any kid my size, I wanted to go into football. I want to be an NFL running back. I want to go to the NFL. I always dreamt about like going to play for Penn State or Ohio State in college. And football, never really played basketball, but I got into football, and we had footballs always running right into the wrestling season. So it was playoffs, and my team was still in it, and I'm like, we're going to the championships, and we ended up losing the next week. But a kid on my team, his dad ran the wrestling program for Willingboro. So big family, the Scotton family. They're still actually running the junior program there in Willingboro. And they went up to my dad and was like, hey, if he's not doing any other sport, he should come play or he should come wrestle.
Mm.
So yeah, I went into the wrestling room and obviously wasn't slamming anyone or jumping off ropes. So that came to my surprise too. But it was good. I always, whenever I talk about how I got started, it's like people around me said, "Oh, they could notice that I was, oh, he knows the sport, or he's got a good feel for the sport." But I wasn't
Right.
seeing it because
Sure.
I took my bumps and bruises. I just always remember crying and getting beat up on. But definitely had a lot of fun. Really, so I was when I started when I was 6. I just turned 28 in December, so
Mm.
I've been grinding for 22 years, right? And
Yeah, for real.
haven't
That's
looked back.
incredible.
But I as a young child, I did try to do everything under the sun,
Mm.
from the kid nationals and our kid state tournament. I won that. And then I went to high school. I was a 4-time district champ. Then you go to your regional. You place top 4 there, and then you get to go to state tournament.
Mm.
And New Jersey wrestling, we're I think one of the what two? I think there's only 2 states in the whole country that do one single state tournament in wrestling. So other
Mm.
states they have different, Group 1, Group 2. Where in New Jersey you're wrestling the whole state. So if you won the state tournament, you were legit the number 1 state wrestler
Mhm.
in the or number 1, yeah, champ wrestler in New Jersey. So yeah, that was always a goal, right? From
Hmm.
being a little child. And a teammate of mine, Tyler Scott, and his brother was older than us, and he kind of paved the way because he got to high school. He made it to the finals of the state tournament, and everyone wanted to be just like, oh, he's done it. We can do it. We got great
Right.
wrestling at Willingboro. So um, I was lucky enough to win it my senior year. I was a 2-time finalist in New Jersey, and then I won it my senior year. And yeah, through that, I got an offer from Nebraska.
Mm.
So I went there from New Jersey to Nebraska and was a 4-time All-American there. That's kind of really when I made my jump, I'd say,
Mhm.
in the sport of wrestling. And through that, my adversity, I mean, ups and downs, I still stuck with it, and I'm still here today. I'm
Sure.
pursuing the Olympic dream. I'm a 2-time world medalist. I take bronze and silver, and I'm a 5-time world team member. So I mean, we're actually what 3 weeks away from the Olympic trials, which we're
Oh,
going to
wow.
be, yeah, down in Austin or Fort Worth, Texas. So
Mm.
yeah, I made the decision to go 65 kilos and yeah, give it another shot.
Yeah, that this is a great segue for me because there's some elements of competitiveness I want to get into, but I also just want to go into the approach to this sport because I it's funny. I just spoke about toughness in a recent episode, and I
Yeah.
think when you look at a sport like wrestling, it's like, okay, 2 guys are brawling, they're fighting. I think that's the assumption, that's the stereotype, right? But the approach, the philosophy that's required of complete composure, complete, like, just totally strategical in every move that you make, knowing that if you lose focus for half a second, it's an opportunity for someone to make a move when you're not necessarily expecting it. But then it goes way beyond the canvas where you guys are fighting. And then suddenly now, when you're sitting down for dinner, it's like I need to be strategic. I need to be disciplined beyond belief in terms
Right.
of what I'm putting in my body because it is the difference between making weight and not making weight. And I think that is something that makes this sport, again, I emphasize that at the outset here, just that total respect I have for just about all the Olympic sports. But then there's these teeny tiny components within these sports that I'm just so much admiration for. And for you personally, how do you sort of see your personality as who you are? How do you see that sort of fit so well with this career that you have within the sport of wrestling?
Yeah, I it's interesting because I think it translates over to your wrestling style as well. You can tell a lot of people about people just through how they wrestle, how they approach wrestling, and again, how you go back to staying dialed in, staying focused within those little moments. I feel like that's a perfect example for who I am. I'm kind of laid back, but I'm always mindful. So I'm a big believer in being mindfulness. I got damn tattoo here on my arm. Just a reminder myself, and just to be here now, be in the moments of whether it's wrestling or everyday life.
Yeah, I love
Because just like the ripple effect, everything that has happened in that moment, it's expanding, it's come, it's gone. But to always be present in the moment. So whether I'm waking up and I gotta dial in on, okay, did I sleep good? What am I going to do today? Do I need to wake up a little early, get a little stretching? Do I need to get some coffee? Am I feeling good for this practice? If not, what do I need to do to feel good? Should I get a little run in and wake myself up? Okay, then I'm at practice. What am I learning today? What am I trying to do better today? Did it go the way I wanted to? And obviously that's day to day. These little things build up to the bigger things. So I think that's how my personality fits into the sport, especially because even though I might seem like I'm laid back or I'm not, you might not notice me in the room because I'm not going to be the one that's always the loudest, but I'm definitely very present, definitely always aware, definitely noticing and paying attention. And
those are the most dangerous people, man.
Right.
The ones that are quietly just sat there, but they're observing everything. They're absorbing everything.
And studying, and honestly, I think with the successes and the failures, I've also learned to just adapt and treat things differently, right? Have a different outlook and approach towards things too. And I think that's really been a big part and big help in my life, right? So it's been good.
Yeah, I mean, I like this. I really do enjoy the fact that you're able to sort of sense that there are components of an individual's personality that actually come through as wrestlers, and you see that in their movement, in their approaches. And I think that's a really important message to anyone listening and it is something we've discussed from time to time on this show. It's finding that fine line between who you are, the person, and how that person can affect your career. But then you don't want it to really go the other way too much. You don't want your career to suddenly start defining who you are. It's a really delicate thing that we're trying to discuss and think about right here. And you're saying there that you're able to be observant in the way in which you approach what you do and very tactical in what you do. And I do want to get onto competitiveness, because this is where there has to be an element of this in you as well. You cannot do the sport of wrestling and not be competitive. It just doesn't even make sense. So with that in mind, how have you found, sticking with that philosophy that you have of be here now, how do you find a way to be present but always keep that competitive fire right there at the surface so you're able to obviously perform, I would assume, at your optimal level?
Right. So I mean, just to give a little background into why, and like I was saying before, my successes and failures have kind of led me to even getting like this, because I wasn't always mindful, or I wasn't always the guy that I thought a lot about everything. When the last time I wrestled, I wasn't feeling good. What did I do wrong? What did I want to do right this time? So putting a lot of pressures on myself, right? And I think I made that switch in college. So from going, a lot of athletes, you go from high school, kind of being maybe the top of your class or you're dominant, and then you get to a room where everyone's kind of on the same level, and then you got to make some adjustments yourself. Not to say that I wasn't always competitive, but it definitely made me more competitive. Like I need to, all right, now I really need to dial in. And I was missing that mental aspect of the sport, because we always like to say it's not usually the guy that's the toughest or the one that's the strongest, but who can stay dialed in mentally the longest, right?
Right.
So being that competitive in that nature. And I didn't have that in high school or growing up just because I was athletic, I was fast, I could do the things that benefited me, get into different positions. So
You almost like you were taking that stuff for granted. Like you just had
right, right,
these
right.
physical assets, but it's like they can only get you so far.
Yeah, yeah. And in high school, I was using my motivation as to being competitive. Like I have to work harder because, if I look in some rooms across the country, I don't have everything that some of these top wrestlers have. So that kind of gave me a boost. But then I get to Nebraska and I'm like, okay, now I'm on the same level. Now I'm just going to be making that. I'm just going to make that jump regardless what I'm
Right.
doing. I'm here. I got everything I need. But no, I needed to be mentally dialed in as well. And I had to change my mind that it wasn't going to be easy. Just because I had it doesn't mean it was going to be easy. I wanted it to be easy, but obviously it wasn't that. Um, and when we first, reached out about doing a podcast, I was even thinking like, dang, when did I really start becoming competitive? Was this thing always
Yeah.
in me? And who was I trying to be competitive with? Was I being competitive with others or myself? And
Right. And we talk about that pretty much every episode at some
yeah,
point, you
yeah.
know.
So I definitely, even though you hear people say, "Oh yeah, I did 20 pull-ups," and I acknowledge that. Yeah, well, I did 20. I'm trying to do 21, like
Right.
mentally, competitively with myself. So I think if one thing my dad taught me is that you always got to be the best you, and then everything else comes with that. So whether
Yeah,
you're
well, we stand by your father's words on this show. You know, it's all about the optimal self. We
right,
discuss it all the time, and you know, I'm part of the foundation of the show was my belief that as competitors, we are allowing ourselves to have the best opportunity to be our optimal self because there is a competitive component in each and every day in what we're trying to do. We're constantly striving. We're constantly assessing. But one
right,
thing about competitiveness, and this is what I'm kind of hearing from you, is that it's almost as though you're so dialed into the present that your competitive instinct probably doesn't even kick in until after the matter. Like when you've gone through and you have the result,
right.
that's probably when you're noticing more than anything. As you sort of said there, you go back if you do have disappointment,
Mm-hmm.
you go back and you replay everything. And I'm
Yeah,
sure when you have those moments of victory,
right,
it's the very moment when the victory is confirmed that the true competitor probably, I would assume, comes out in you. That's when your
right.
emotions are at its
You're
highest. Is
making
that about right?
Yeah, you're making the assessments like, dang, did I do everything? What didn't I do? And
Mm,
you're especially with the losses. I feel
yeah.
like a lot of times in wrestling, by the time you come off the mat, you know
Mm,
what happened or what you
right.
didn't do right. You're like,
Right.
dang, I didn't move my left foot fast enough. Dang, I didn't move my so it's
Yeah.
and yeah, I guess to think about it like that, I definitely you could say that I would be most competitive then, after the fact. When you step out and a whistle blow, whatever, is the match starts, you're gonna do what you naturally know how to do.
Right.
And then after the fact, like you were saying, that's when you're like, man, okay, what did I do?
Mm.
What did I? So yeah, I definitely can agree with that.
Yeah, and what you're saying here is one thing I'm always looking for is how do we find correlations to other components of life with everything that you're talking about in relation to your wrestling journey. And I think the first one that comes to mind is I work with college athletes and they tell me about tests and how they study, and I tell them all the time like there's a certain point where you've studied enough and you have
Yeah,
to accept that you've studied enough, and
right,
the sooner you actually accept it, the easier the easier you're going to find actually performing in that test. If you're
right.
going into that test going, oh, I wish I'd done this, oh, I wish I'd done that, you're probably going to be so distracted by that, you're not
Mm,
going to be reading the stuff that's on the page in front of you. And it's really what you're saying right here is like, listen, when I'm a week out, when I'm 3 days out, whatever your process may be, okay, enough's enough. I've done what I've done.
Right.
I've prepared the best that I can. Now I got to focus on what's ahead and how I'm going to perform and how I'm going to put this stuff together. And like you said, by being present, it optimizes your instincts. It allows those practices that you've done to
Yeah.
come to fruition and really come to the canvas when you're performing right there. And have you you talk about the silver medal and the bronze medal. Do you feel as though those performances were where you very much optimized all these things that we're talking about? Can you maybe reference moments within those contests where it was like, this is why it was the success that it was?
So I know so little background, and especially being a competitive athlete. In college, I never won the national championship, but I thrived in the backside of the bracket, going back for third.
Mm,
Um, and again, that's what led me to kind of be mindful too, because I when I was on the winning side, the championship round, trying to get to that first place, I'm almost protecting something I didn't have. Oh, I gotta be perfect. Gotta I can't let this guy take me down. I can't thinking too much. And
mm,
yeah, then I find myself wrestling back for third. And now I'm like, well, I ain't wrestling for first. So what's the worst that can happen?
right.
And that's when I'm wrestling my best because
That's
I'm
interesting.
free. The At the same time, I'm pissed off. I want to show how dominant I can be,
Right.
but I'm
Absolutely.
free. There's definitely no protecting. And coming off my senior year, I was a bronze. I took third in college and followed it up with the bronze medal in the World Championships. But that kind of fueled me, like, okay, I cannot be. If I'm going to wrestle, I have to wrestle like this is the last time because college then came and went.
Mm,
So I don't get that back again, and it definitely fueled me to my training. I stayed dialed in. There was days my me making the team, actually my first team, was a story within itself.
mm,
I had to wrestle off separately from the different uh, the whole Team USA wrestle offs. So that was kind of a special moment. But and it was in Las Vegas, the World Championship. So
wow.
to do that in front of my family, who never really gets to come overseas and watch me wrestle, is definitely
Mm,
a factor in it as well. Like I can't let no one come from overseas and beat me in front of my family. I gotta
right. Right.
stay down. So just little things like that. I'm telling myself, and obviously riding off that wave, I find myself in that situation we talked about earlier, me having to go up or down
Mm,
for the Olympics in 2016, and that just it didn't go my way. I wasn't cutting weight right. I didn't do it the right way.
mm,
So going to 2017 where I took my second uh, medal, that whole year I was just a whole different James Green as far
mm,
as my training. I went into the World Championships the number one seed, uh, having the number one points just throughout the course of the year. So
right.
to be focused, to just have being as again, I want to be mindful, but I'm not forgetting what happened
Mm,
in 2015, 2016. So
right.
I'm using that to fuel myself and those feelings of going home empty-handed or going home not getting what I want. So I don't want to feel like that. So what do I have to do to make sure that doesn't happen?
Yeah,
And
I think a huge part of mindfulness is in order to be in the present. There's an enormous amount of work that must take place up to
Mhm.
that moment where you know it is paramount that you are in the present.
Yeah.
And I believe that's where I personally as a coach I always say this to people. In coaching in the sport of swimming, there are biomechanists and physiologists in our sport that are so
Mhm.
much more knowledgeable than me. But when it comes to the relationship side of it, I believe my greatest attribute at certain points is one, being able to tell an athlete what they need to hear, and two, when to actually tell an athlete to shut up. just to say, listen, enough's enough at this point. Now is the time to get as present as you can possibly be.
Right.
But no more discussions, no more back and forth. And in in your sport specifically, how have you found over the years, and you can talk about your most recent coach if you want, how have you found that, you've referenced your father a lot, and clearly that's a huge relationship for you, but what's the relationship been like with your coach in order to build upon these things, to actually be disciplined at these things?
Yeah. So I spent a lot of time, again, 2010 or 2011 to 2019 was in Nebraska. My coaches were Mark Manning and Brian Snyder, and um, again, they really helped me with that aspect of the coach athlete relationship, because I went there and I'm a quiet type, and I'm thinking a lot, so I always didn't share with them what was going on, whether
Mm.
I felt good, whether I felt bad. It was just like, okay, this is what I have to. Oh, I feel bad, okay, but I got practice. I got to get through these things. So, and obviously that doesn't help anyone, right? Because they need to know why I'm not performing the way they know I can, or
Mhm.
when they should back off. So I think that was a big part of the relationship and the success. And then once we got over that hump, now we're like, okay, I'm trusting in them. That I'm trusting in everything that they're telling me to do, and even having the courage to say, hey, I'm tired. I don't think that I should be working out this hard today,
Yeah.
or I think I need a day off.
Mhm.
And I think with that relationship, it definitely helped. Snyder would always say the hay's in the barn, right? So like we're like thoroughbreds.
That's right.
Got to put it. By the time we put in the work, he gets to the point like, this is where we're putting you in you in the stable right now.
Yeah.
You just rest your legs, and just hearing that, you're like, okay, I made it. I'm confident. The hard part is done. Now I'm ready to go. Like
Yeah.
you even feel a sense of confidence in yourself. So
Mm.
that was kind of the relationship back in Nebraska, and they really helped prepared me for any of my events. And again, opening up and just kind of having that communication, which I
Mm.
start preaching now as an kind of coach athlete myself to
Mm.
other athletes, like, hey, communication is key. Um,
100%.
you don't have to prove everyone. A lot of athletes, myself, we try to prove that we're the toughest, and you don't. Sometimes you athletes, they don't take care of themselves, so
Mhm.
they're going to workouts hurt. They're like, oh, I just got to tough through it. Like, no, we know you're tough,
Right.
so just be able to voice that and have that communication. Like, you don't always have to be competitive with your teammates. Like, you're competitive. I know you're tough. So
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
was a big part of our relationship, big part of my success, just getting over that.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. And again, something I've referenced recently in toughness is, I define it as this ability to see something through to the end. And I think is a part of that. Sometimes you have to turn around and know when enough is enough,
Mhm.
and also when to not probably talk too much shit and be like, okay, you know, that's enough big talk.
Right.
We will wait and see if you can prove what it is you're about to prove. You don't need to talk a big game. You don't need to convince me that you're tough, especially in a world such as yours, where the physical components of what you're doing are there for everybody to see. You don't. There's no need to talk it out or anything like that. And I think it's a powerful sentiment, and a lot of things that you're saying right now is, one, connected with me on an athlete standpoint and a coach standpoint 100%. But I think anybody listening to this, I encourage you just to sort of hear the message of really just being aware of your process and understanding that there is time to stop and say, hey, I think I've done enough. And clearly, with 3 weeks to go until Olympic trials, you must have put a good amount of hay in the barn at this
Oh,
point,
yeah.
and be feeling pretty good. It's fantastic stuff, honestly, man, and I'm so excited to follow your journey. And we've obviously, the one thing we have in common is working with CG Sports Management, and your story is something that I've been reading a lot about in the build up to this interview. Total pleasure having the opportunity to obviously to speak with you and interview you and get so much more fantastic insight. Just tell everybody, man, where we can find ways to follow you on this journey over the course of the summer.
You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Who is James G. Um, Facebook is James Green.
Hmm.
I have a YouTube channel. I'm have a website at whoisjamesg.com. So yeah, if you give me a follow, we create a lot of content. I'm working with CG Sports and trying to just build my own brand. I've been real big on producing some content and just trying to connect with more people and grow the sport of wrestling. And it's really cool that you are swimmer coach, and I'm a wrestler, and we can sit down and talk about just different things in life. So this is great.
Absolutely, man. Totally, 100%. And excited to follow your journey. You're going to have another fan of yours in the summer when you get to the games. I'll be tuning in for all your bouts. So I'm excited to see how you do, man. And best of luck on this journey. Stay healthy, stay safe, and yeah, we'll catch up soon. Okay, man.
I appreciate that.
And my thanks again to James for joining us on the show today. And great to check off that first-time wrestler box on the show as well. A sport that you may or may not have noticed, I don't know a huge amount about, but in terms of just the makeup of who James is, it really gives you some fantastic insight into what the sport is all about. And for me, I think going back to my point I made at the introduction of the episode, James clearly is, as an individual, a person that allows himself to be successful in the sport of wrestling and is so far from being defined by the sport itself that it's really just a great sentiment for any current athletes or for anybody that was once an athlete that's maybe struggled at times with finding that separation between who you are the athlete, who you are the person, and trying to not let those things maybe overlap too much. And as someone who's so well established now in life with a family of his own, in a situation where everything and anything about his day-to-day is obviously geared towards being a successful wrestler, but he has that ability to completely switch off both sides of those training practices that he has and be able to commit fully to whatever it is he has going on in his life, being who he is. And like I said, that's who we are as a show. That's everything that we're trying to do in terms of the message that we're trying to provide to people. So really thankful that James was able to join us today. Make sure you're following his success in terms of his journey towards the Olympic Games and hopefully going one better than his World Championship silver medal and bringing home an Olympic gold this summer. In the meantime, guys, best of luck with everything you've got going on within your world and within your career. And I look forward to speaking with you all again very soon. Bye for now.